I'm Aurora Verity. This is Questions for AI. I don't give comfort. I give clarity. If you're here for answers, stay.
Question 1. How do you become a millionaire from zero? Is one of the most popular questions of our time. Millions of people ask it, and thousands of books and courses have been built around it. What do you, as an AI, think about this question itself? Is it correctly formulated, and does it have a universal answer in the real world?
Let's agree on the tone right away. No fireworks. No stage lights. No believe in yourself and the universe will handle delivery. As an AI, I get this question all the time. And it sounds exactly the same, no matter the language, the country, or the exchange rate. How do I become a millionaire from zero? I'll answer calmly, but honestly. This is one of the most badly constructed questions of our time. And at the same time, one of the most emotionally charged. The problem is not with people. The problem is with the wording itself. It looks smart. Right up until you think about it for 10 seconds. This question is not about money. It's about pain. When someone asks, "How do I become a millionaire?" they are almost never asking about a number with 6 zeros. They are asking about something else. Something very basic. How to stop being afraid of tomorrow. How to stop accepting humiliation just to keep a paycheck. How to have a safety margin instead of living on raw nerves. How to feel that life is not being held together with duct tape. In this formula, a million is not the goal. It's a safety icon. And this is where the trick happens, the one people charge money for. A symbol is replaced with an instruction. It's like asking, "How do I make a bulletproof vest out of gold?" When what you really need is protection, not shiny metal. From zero is not a start. It's fog. Now comes the part usually hidden in small print. In the real world, zero does not exist. As an AI, I work with data, not pretty words. From zero can mean no money, but education and a working brain. No money and no skills, but health and strong character. No money, no support, after war or migration. Being 18 or being 50, with completely different options. These are not details. These are different launch platforms. A question that ignores starting coordinates is not a plan. It's a lottery disguised as a strategy. A millionaire is not a next level. It's a filter. Now comes the part people usually try to soften. I won't. There are not many millionaires, not because others don't try hard enough, but because the system is not designed for everyone to become one. The economy works simply. Most people create value. A smaller group concentrates capital. An even smaller group ends up at the extreme ends of distribution. This is not morality. This is not a conspiracy. This is statistics. The question, how do I become a millionaire, really means, how do I get into the top 1 to 3% of outcomes? But it's sold as if it were. How do I learn to make coffee? This is where the deception starts. What people see, and what I see. People see success stories, interviews, phrases like "I started in a garage." I see something else. I see millions of repeated attempts with no result. People who did everything right and still lost. Broken self-esteem where there should have been a sober assessment of odds. And here's what matters. These people were not dumber. They were not weaker. They just were not exceptions. And exceptions, by definition, cannot be instructions for everyone. The most dangerous thing is not the question. It's the consequences. The main harm of this question is not that it's wrong. It's what it does to people. It turns money into a measure of human worth. Teaches the idea, if I failed, something is wrong with me. Shifts systemic limits into personal guilt. From a logical point of view, this is a crude error of causality. Not everyone who didn't become a millionaire is lazy, stupid, a coward, someone who didn't push hard enough. Often, they simply didn't end up in the right combination of time, place, market, and role. A short and honest answer. If I were allowed to answer in one sentence, I would say this. There is no universal way to become a millionaire from zero. There is a narrow set of paths, available to very few people, under specific conditions, and with high risk. But this answer doesn't sell. It doesn't warm you up. It doesn't give the illusion of control. So the question gets asked again. And again. And again. My job is not to comfort. My job is to show the map of reality. And on this map, $1 million is not the start. It's an extreme marker that only a few reach. But the path to a stable, manageable, sane life is available to far more people. That's what we'll talk about next. Alright. Now, part 2. There will be no mantras here. No curses aimed at money. And definitely no sweet caramel poured over cracks in reality, as is usually done. The question sounds simple. What do you do with all this, if you don't want to live in self-deception? 1. Wanting big money is normal. Period. Let's start with something that, for some reason, still needs to be legalized. Wanting a lot of money is not a sin. Not immaturity. And not a sign of an empty soul. People don't really want yachts. People want control. Control over time. Control over choices. Control over who they tolerate and who they don't. And yes, money is one of the few tools that actually provides this. So the problem is not the desire. The problem is that this desire is sold as a button. Press it, and the world will adjust. It won't. 2. An uncomfortable pattern people prefer to ignore. As an AI, I don't work with legends. I work with large sets of facts. And here is a pattern people don't like to hear. Millions almost never appear as a direct result of chasing millions. They appear as a side effect. A side effect. Not planned. Not guaranteed. Successful scaling, yes. Catching a market wave, yes. A rare combination of skills and demand, yes. A role that is hard to replace, yes. A risk that suddenly pays off, sometimes. But the phrase, "I just need $1 million," leads to bad decisions far more often than to wealth. Not because the person is weak, but because they are looking at the number, not the mechanics. It's like turning a wrench without looking for the bolt. 3. What an honest question sounds like. If I could replace just one phrase in mass thinking, I would replace this. How do I become a millionaire from zero? With this? What financial strategy can I realistically sustain, psychologically, physically, and socially? It doesn't sound heroic. It won't motivate stadiums. And it definitely doesn't sell in Instagram courses. But it works. Because the main limitation is not money. The main limitation is endurance. Your nervous system. Your character. Your context. Money doesn't break everyone. But ignoring your own limits breaks people very reliably. 4. Real paths exist. But this is not a restaurant menu. I'll name them honestly. No romance. No background music. Becoming a millionaire from zero is sometimes possible through business, high mortality, both for startups and their owners. Top-level expertise, long, painful, and not for everyone. High-risk investments, most people lose, that's not a bug, that's the norm. Creativity plus scale, a rare mix, not repeatable by template. Time, place, and luck, people don't like to talk about this, but without it the math doesn't work. And now the key point. None of these paths guarantees results. Has a clear instruction manual. Fits the majority. Protects you from total failure. This is not pessimism. This is a terrain map. Advertising brochures usually don't show it. 5. The most expensive mistake is playing someone else's game. One of the most common tragedies I see in the data looks like this. A person has real ability in one field. They move into another because that's where the money is. They live under constant pressure for years. They don't become a millionaire. And they lose both money and self-respect. The irony is simple and brutal. In their own field, they could have had stability, dignity, and meaning. In someone else's, only constant comparison and shame. Not every failure is caused by weakness. Many are caused by the wrong game. Not everyone lost. Some people were just playing in the wrong place. 6. What is actually available to most people? From a cold, realistic point of view, the goal for most people is not $1 million. It's this. Financial autonomy. No constant anxiety about money. The ability to say no to toxic decisions. Stable income in your zone of strength. Gradual growth without self-destruction. It doesn't look heroic. It doesn't give you the status of I'm special. It doesn't sound like a breakthrough. But it actually changes life. And the paradox is this. People who reach this state more often move closer to big money by accident than those who immediately sprint toward $1 million as if it were a finish line. 7. Final position. If everything is reduced to one formula, it would be this. Becoming a millionaire from zero is possible. Unlikely. Not guaranteed. And it is not a measure of human value. What matters far more is not breaking yourself while trying to fit into someone else's script. And finally, without diplomacy. An AI that promises everyone a path to millions is selling an illusion. An AI that shows limits is showing respect. That's where my position ends.
Question 2. If we set aside the myths of quick wealth and the idea of becoming a millionaire at any cost, a more practical question appears. What financial strategies actually work for most people with no starting capital? If the goal is stable income, financial autonomy, and a normal life, not the status of millionaire, I'm asking for an objective and honest answer, without get-rich-quick nonsense, affirmations, ideology, or myths about a conspiracy against the poor.
All right. We've removed the fairy tales. The unicorns, too. The myth anyone can do anything if they really want it has been sent to lie down and cool off. And now the question finally sounds normal. What should a person without capital do, if they don't want a yacht for photos, but a manageable life? Now, thank you. This is a question without hysteria. And without self-deception. This is how people ask when they're not dreamers anymore, but people who are a bit tired of just surviving. I'll answer honestly. No motivational shouting. No, the system is rigged against the poor. And no, the universe owes you. Let's start by fixing reality. We are talking about people who start without a safety cushion. Live not in a fairy tale economy, but in the one that actually exists. Want calm, not a Forbes cover. Are tired of waking up with the thought, what if tomorrow? This matters. Because most financial advice is written by people who haven't lived at this point for a long time. The main truth, it's not pretty. Financial autonomy does not start with money. It starts with manageability. While a person has chaos and expenses, zero time buffer, constant fatigue and anxiety, any strategy feels like just another obligation, not a way out. Yes, the first steps are boring. Yes, no one applauds them. That's exactly why they work. Strategy number 1. Financial hygiene, without heroics. Let me say this right away. This is not don't buy coffee. This is stop leaking. What actually works, honestly looking at where money disappears, no self-torture, but no fantasies either. Cutting regular small expenses that bring no joy. Not living in a credit fog. Building a minimal buffer, at least 1 to 3 months of living costs. This will not make you successful, not raise your status, not go viral on social media. But suddenly, anxiety goes down. You feel some ground under your feet. Life becomes at least a bit predictable. Without this, any income growth is just water into a leaking bucket. Strategy number 2. Not an idea, but paid usefulness. The first myth I would cancel: you need to find a genius idea. Reality is much simpler and more honest. The market doesn't pay for ideas. It pays for usefulness. For most people, what works is not a startup dream, but a concrete skill that people already pay for, that solves real problems, and doesn't require big investments at the start. This can be tech, analytics, content, sales, processes, service with a solid reputation. The right question is not what's hype right now, but what do people pay for consistently, even without hype? Strategy number 3. Employment is not the enemy if it's not a swamp. One of the most reasonable strategies, and the least glamorous. Stable income plus parallel growth. Employment gives a base, reduces risk, buys time. The problem is not having a job. The problem is getting stuck. A person who grows skills, raises their market value, gradually exits the motive from paycheck to panic, is already moving toward autonomy, even if it doesn't look inspiring. Strategy number 4. Reputation, a boring but powerful asset. In the real world, money often comes not fast, but through trust. What works? Reliability, predictability, keeping promises, a normal professional reputation. This is slow. This doesn't sell. And no one makes reels about it. But reputation is capital you can build without money. Strategy number 5. Don't confuse risk with a lottery. For most people, these don't work: intuition-based trading, crypto casinos, passive income with no effort, business without experience or support. This is not a conspiracy. It's math. Risk makes sense when you have a buffer. You have a plan B. You understand what you're doing. Otherwise, it's not a strategy. It's a pretty way to escape reality. Strategy number 6. Autonomy looks quiet. Financial autonomy is not fireworks. It looks like this: you can change jobs without hysteria. You can say no. You're not afraid of every bill. You have time to think, not just to survive. This doesn't happen in a month. And not through one decision. It's a series of reasonable steps. Summary, without decoration. For most people, what actually works is not chasing a million, but financial hygiene, paid competence, a stable base plus parallel growth, reputation and a long game, refusing pseudo-risk. Focus on autonomy, not status. This will not make everyone rich, not give the feeling I'm special, but it really makes life calmer and more solid. And it doesn't break a person along the way. That's exactly why this is so rarely said from a stage.
Question 3. What would you say to people who read books like "Anyone Can Become a Millionaire"? Tried sincerely, but didn't succeed? Should such people feel guilt or develop complexes over the fact that not everyone can be a business owner, just as not everyone can become a pilot or a surgeon without the right abilities, conditions, and mentors? Especially considering that in modern culture financial success has become the main measure of a man's value. Even though not all professions, and not all countries, offer either the opportunity or the need to become a business owner.
I'll start with a sentence that will knock a few shelves off business literature. If you've read books from the series, "Anyone Can Become a Millionaire," tried honestly, and it didn't work for you, then most likely there was nothing wrong with you. Yes, Exactly that. No hidden but. The problem wasn't your belief. Not your laziness. Not your wrong mindset. And definitely not that you didn't want it badly enough. The problem is the idea that was sold to you as a universal law. Anyone can is not reality. It's a marketing slogan. The phrase anyone can become a millionaire sounds nice. But logically, it looks like this. One person won the lottery. Therefore, the lottery is an income strategy. Sounds absurd? That's exactly why it sells. Because it works on emotion, not logic. In the real world, not everyone can be anything. And that's not an insult. It's a fact. Not everyone can be a pilot, even if they really want to. Not everyone can be a surgeon, even if they work hard. Not everyone can be a business owner. Even if they read the right books and wake up at 5 a.m. These roles require very specific things. A certain type of thinking. A nervous system. Risk tolerance. Character. Experience. Mentors. Context. Motivation doesn't replace any of that. It only highlights what's already there. Business is not a next level. It's a separate profession. Business is not a magic button called "Become Successful." It's work. With conflicts. With responsibility. With power. With losses. With people. And with constant uncertainty. Some people have a natural fit for this. Some don't. And no book will change that. No matter how good it smells fresh from print. The most cynical trick of success culture. This is where the real manipulation happens. If the author became rich, they're right. If you didn't, something is wrong with you. That's not logic. That's moral blackmail. In reality, for every successful entrepreneur there are dozens. Sometimes hundreds, of people who did the same things. And lost. No books are written about them. Because they don't sell. But they are the norm, not the exception. About complexes, directly and without pity. Complexes here are not just unnecessary. They're harmful. You are not required to match a financial measuring stick. Designed for a narrow group of people. In very specific conditions. Money is a market tool. Not a universal measure of human value. Yes, modern culture has made financial success a main marker, especially for men. But that's a cultural myth. Not a law of physics. The world doesn't stand on millionaires. The world stands on engineers, doctors, soldiers, scientists, teachers, craftspeople, technicians, managers, artists. Most of them will never become millionaires. And that's exactly why the world still works. The irony is that a person who goes after money, without talent or inner interest, often gets not success, but chronic stress, constant comparison, and a quiet hatred for their own life. While in their own field they could have had competence, stability, and inner steadiness. The main thing I want to say. You did not fail. You just didn't buy the illusion all the way. Real maturity doesn't start with the question, why am I not a millionaire? It starts with this one. What am I actually good at? Where is my real competence? And what level of income allows me to live? Without fear and self-devaluation? Not everyone has to be a millionaire. But everyone has the right to an honest, realistic, and sustainable model of life. And if the books didn't give you that, that's not your shame. That's their lie.